My name is Justin Russo. I am from New York. I am a sophomore at NYU, and I am an artist, art major, cinema studies minor. That was shitty. Why don't you ask me questions? It's better, as opposed to tell me a little about yourself.
Okay.
Got into art mainly from when I was a little kid. Story, as I understand, is as follows: that when I was 2 years old, they could not make me draw in preschool, and I would always scream and yell about it. And then at 3 years old, I started picking up a marker and coloring, and I haven't stopped since. At 3 years old, I'd be coloring in the lines and yelling at my mom for not coloring in the lines when she would be coloring with me or anyone else. So I guess from an early age, I loved art. My inspiration, especially more modern, my artwork now, mainly comes from the Jazz Age, the Depression era, and the war years, so the 20s to the 40s mainly. I don't know what it is, but there's something obviously so timeless and classic about that. And I'm actually best friends with my grandparents, and they're incredibly important to me. And so, I mean, I guess after growing up with them around me all the time, they really inspired me to fall in love with that time period. And my favorite music is the jazz from that period. My favorite movies are also from that period. I'm just a classic, romanticized artist, I guess. So a lot of my inspiration comes from that, and particularly now I'm going more into getting a lot of inspiration from the cinema from that era. I started getting into this art, the cinema art, I was actually really started last year when I was really confused as to what I want to do for one of my next assignments. And I was glancing through some pictures of Rita Hayworth, and Rita Hayworth is my dream girl. And I came across her image from the movie Gilda, and it is probably one of the most sultry images I've ever seen in my life. And I decided to reproduce that image and alter it a little bit, and I did. And from that moment on, I couldn't get the ideas of using classic actors and actresses as my models for my artwork. And I started looking at, once again, I had to say that I watch close to, maximum 3 movies a day from that era, when I had the time. Fall asleep to that, and I guess it was just completely part of me, and I wanted a way to connect both aspects of my loves, art and film, and even jazz, and put the 3 together. I think the biggest challenge that I've had mainly were to completely understand as to why I am so infatuated with this time period. I guess that's the biggest thing I've had. And I guess the best answer that I've gotten so far was from my painting professor now, and she said, why do you need to know? If you love it so much, why does there have to be an explanation? And just use that power to create. And so that's what I've been doing to overcome that hurdle. I want people to understand not only what it was like back then, and more so the greatness that came from that period. It truly is, in my opinion, one of the greatest generations that ever lived. Besides their heroism and what they did for our country, but more so for our culture and for, I guess, the arts in general. And from that time period, in terms of film, 1939, in my opinion, is probably the best year that ever existed for movies. And from that and the whole entire era, people, all this great work was being created, and people forget about that. And in my opinion, the modernization of music and film has kind of declined. And a lot of the movies, a lot of the music, a lot of the celebrities that are around today, in my opinion, just don't stack up to what was once. And so I want people to understand that these actors, these filmmakers, these artists from that time period were so extraordinary in what they did, and I don't want them to be forgotten. And so I guess I want people to understand that there is history in what's going on now, and I want people to recognize that.